Hello. Well, DCC's been a gold standard of old school gaming for 10 years or at least 10 years or something like that. There's a ton of great content out there from Goodman Games, from third-party publishers like Order the Quill, free internet resources like Purple Sorcerer, and even social media. But what about people who make it happen behind the scenes? Every adventure is full of good writing and art, but needs an editor and really, really needs a playtester or two or five or 20. So tonight we're going to talk to some of our favorites and also Judge Jen. And we're going to have some other gossip and malingering and a visit to the email crypt. All this and more on this month's Spellburn. But first, I'm going to interrogate Jen about her trip to the UK to go to Games Expo representing DCC. Most important question, but I'm doing this in a British accent. Tally ho, Jen, were you coronated while you were in England?
No,
No, no
but I'm proud of her.
coronation, no coronation for Jen. Very good. Did you have some bangers and mash, London Pride or I don't know.
Banger, yes. Mash, no.
Hmm.
Fish, yes. Chips, yes, multiple times. Curries,
Mm.
yes, multiple times.
Mm.
Pasty, yes. Ribena, yes. Um, and various ciders, yes. And some history too, which was kind of cool. But
Did
that
you
was all
meet
like after hours.
did you meet by any chance my mate Julian Haley, possessor of one of the great names in the world?
I did. Received a lovely gift basket from he and his wife Sue, and Sue was invaluable to myself and Goodman Games. She helped staff the booth at UK Games Expo for all 3 days, and of course, Bruce Cunnington was the bestest bloke ever, helping with setup, teardown, putting up with Brendan in the middle, and carting him around to all of the friendly local gaming stores out there.
Ah, cheers. Cheers to Bruce. One of my favorites. Yes. Haven't seen him since we were fox hunting in the downs and on the moors with Heathcliff and Kathy. Yes. Well,
You could
excellent.
stop anytime.
Oh, oh, but I can't. Oh, yes. Anyway, let me yeah, okay, I'm gonna get out of that. I don't know if you want any other gossip. I'm gonna say a couple things. Road Crew Rally is coming up on Tuesday, June 13th. So that's next Tuesday. So if you're watching this on Twitch, uh, check out the Road Crew Rally. Look at goodmangames.com and find out all about it. Also, Free RPG Day is just weeks away. That's June 24th, and there is a new adventure called Piercing the Demon's Eye, and it's by Judge Daniel Joseph Bishop, which if people are giving away free Daniel Bishop adventures, I want mine, and I'm pretty excited about that. And then also, even more importantly, we have a DCC day coming up Saturday, July 22nd. So go to your FLGS and demand a DCC event and all that good stuff. So notes of notes, excuse me, dates of note for our DCC players.
It's like it's Friday
Jen,
night or something.
geez, no kidding. I'm the pizza place didn't bring my pizza. I'm operating on fumes here. I'm just like, oh my God. Um, Jen, do you have any other gossip for us? Any upcoming,
Uh,
Goodman Gamesery that we want to share?
Origins is overlapping with Free RPG Day, but that's not our fault, so we won't have anything at the booth. Please don't ask.
But you're going to be at Origins.
I will.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So if you're in Columbus area, it's still in Columbus?
It is in Columbus. We'll have Michael Curtis, Brendan LaSalle, um, and a number of community staples running games. Stephen Gayeski and myself and Dieter Zimmerman will be running the booth, as well
Wow.
as volunteers.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so if you're in C bus, take the C bus to the Origins and hang out with Brendan and Jen. Enough said. All right, we're good. We have a lot of fun guests to talk to. Uh, so we're going to do that. We're going to take just a second and we're going to go to our first guest. Tell me now, what could it be? All right, so tonight I wanted to talk to editors, and I didn't do a tally because I'm lazy, but I think Judge Jen might have the crown, the heavyweight title for most adventures edited, unless Reverend Dak does. He's done a ton as well.
I would cede it to Dak.
Okay.
I've worked on a lot of different projects, and there's over 75 projects and close to 90 different items with SKUs in it that have my red pen on them. Not always appropriately attributed, but the editors also need an editor sometimes.
You did a lot of Linkmar stuff and also a lot of Dying Earth stuff, I believe, right?
Yes.
So you may have done a broader set, even if it was a smaller set. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna have Reverend Dak on eventually anyway, because he's a character. But tonight we're talking editors, and he was out having a church service in California doing cultist things. So we are going to have Judge Jen represent one editorial side, and on the other side we have, don't let me get this name wrong, Brian Gilkison. Yes, and Brian has done a lot of editing, especially on Dying Earth stuff, but also on some third-party stuff and Tales of the Smoking Worm.
That's correct. Yep. Five of the adventures for Dying Earth, spread across a lot of the authors. One little one called The Great Visp Hunt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was
nobody. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good stuff.
Yes. It was a blast to work on. Getting to play in the sandbox of all the authors. Especially the fact that we got Errol Otis to come back in and write something too. That one was quite trippy. To work with.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Well, great. So, and tell us a little about Tales of the Smoking Worm, just because you've been working on that since the beginning, right?
Yeah. So we the first Gary Con I went to was Gary Con 10. I was a late comer to that, but I was up there with some friends. Trevor Stamper, who is one of our co-creators. You may see him on the Scrivenery as well. We played in a DCC session. I sadly don't remember the exact adventure, but I was playing a neutral cleric that we decided was a cleric of Cthulhu. Because like a lot of gamers, I'm a big fan of Cthulhu and all the madness he brings to the table. And we got to thinking, he's listed in the DCC rulebook as a cleric, deity. But I really thought that Cthulhu always seemed like he was more he'd fit well as a patron, right? He's gonna appeal to the mad cultists. And so we started kicking around some ideas a little bit, and that particular session, March 6th, 2018, would be the genesis of the idea that we said, well, all right, well, how can we get this out there? And, we'd seen Crawl at that point from Dak, and a couple of other, Gong Farmer's Almanac, a couple of others. And we're like, well, the zine support for Goodman is pretty good. excellent actually. And so we thought, well, let's try our hand at it. And so that Cthulhu patron article in the very first issue of Tales from the Smoking Worm is the reason why Tales from the Smoking Worm exists.
That's awesome, because I have actually used it in my City of the Damned campaign to torment PCs,
excellent.
And it was fun. And also sort of ties into some letters from the mailbag that we dumped on the crypt denizen at a later point in the show too. So we'll see how that goes. But nicely done, sir. You guys have a Kickstarter running right now?
We do. It is a Kickstarter for our 7th and 8th issue combined. We decided that, in an effort to bring the good stuff to everybody and to help cut down on some costs, getting all the printing done for both at the same time. Almost all the articles have already been completed quite a while ago. We're doing some final passes on editing, obviously. So we've got, I think, just about 3 days left on that Kickstarter.
All right. All right.
And it'll be for issues 7 and 8. I'm trying to remember what all we have on. It's another spread of a lot of different areas. I don't have anything in 7, but I did write something in issue 8. Actually, if you've played Cthulhu, that first issue, there's a wizard on the cover there. That first issue. We have dubbed him Necromalo the Neutral, to fight with Americol the Chaotic and Locaramon the Lawful. So Necromalo, we decided there was an old artifact you could get from the RPGA called Americol's Fist. And it was a dice that you could roll, and it was an artifact, a minor artifact, and you could roll it and it would come up with certain spell effects. And it was attributed to Americol. And we decided that in pursuing his knowledge, that Necromalo had encountered Americol at some height and had gotten his hands on Americol's Fist, and it became known as Necromalo's Bauble when he came back to the realm of the Smoking Worm. So in issue 8, we've got a write-up that's a DCC version of the Fist, or the Bauble, as we say. We're actually hoping we can get some more backers, because if we reach our highest stretch goal, we're going to release a STL, a 3D printable file for Necromalo's Bauble, a 30-sided artifact with arcane runes and everything.
Come on, Twitchers, come on.
I know. We need to get them out there.
All right.
We hope everybody will see it regardless eventually. But that's something that we're really shooting for on this.
I see our guests in the green room are frantically clicking their computers right now. So that's your totals are going up right now. So that sounds awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks, Brian. Kickstarter's going on 3 days. Means if you're on Twitch, do it now or tomorrow while you're hungover. When you hear this podcast, like, it'll be 10 days later, so that's going to not be there. But you can buy this product on goodmangames.com eventually. So go, and you can buy the back issues and do that. They're really beautifully produced. I know I've actually raved about them on Spellburn before, but they're lovely zines. They don't look like stuff people made with the Xerox in the 80s. They look like fancy.
That all the credit for that goes all to Trevor. He's had an idea of wanting to bring back that idea of how we're tactile. We're still tactile people. I mean, it's nice to be able to get our rules in an iPad or whatever, but it's still also nice to really crack open that book and lay it down in front of you. So he wanted that tactile experience of the zine to evoke what the very first scenes from the 70s and early 80s were like.
Excellent. So, okay. Now I know I quite like that digression. So thank you. Go support the Kickstarter right now, but let's talk about editing. I'm going to switch it back to Judge Jen. How'd you get into the editing game to begin with?
Jeez. I have had red pen tendencies since I was a child. I actually found one of the first times I picked up a book and circled it with marker and wrote the corrected word. I was 7. When I started getting into editing RPGs, my beloved father said, "I don't understand a thing about this. I'm just glad that you're making someone else's life miserable." And it it really yeah, perfectionism. Yeah, me. So starting on it, shortly after I got into the DCC community, I think Paul Wolf was one of the first people that I did any proofreading for, and what was later published under Mystic Bull. And then I started getting into playtesting and providing feedback for one of the first releases from Thick Skull Adventures, Stephen Newton, and then oh shoot, Carl and Eric Stormlord. Stormlord Publishing was my first paying editing gig.
Yeah.
And right about that time, I started getting my foot in the door with Goodman, just because they only had one person on staff at that point, or on hand to be an editor, and that was Dak. And the very first thing I actually did for Goodman Games was lay out the judges' screen. Because I was starting to put one together for myself, and I was going absolutely nuts trying to figure out what pieces I needed. So I started sourcing from the Facebook group. Hey, which tables do you think are the most important? And I did the same with G+. Yes, I know, too soon. And put all of those together, you know, meticulously measured things, and even though I wasn't layout. And the first adventure that I edited was Edgar Johnson's Against the Atomic Overlord, number 87, I believe.
Interesting. Did you now, and then you also worked on Lankmar, and then
that was much later. Yeah,
much later. But then also on Dying Earth. So what's it like to kind of switch? So I think your whole career, editing career, whatever, has been on DCC, if I understand correctly. Is that true?
It is my drug of choice.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, what's it like to switch rule sets? Because you're trying to keep people honest in terms of, you know, you're doing a little fleeting luck over here, a little grudge token over here, a little you know, Wayfarer luck over there, a little, you know, does it get weird to you know, switch around?
Not really. The only oddness came in with some of the MCC mods, and then I had to actually go back and refresh myself on the brand new MCC rules, which hadn't been published yet. For Lankmar, it was pretty easy because it was just Michael Curtis. You know, so if I had any questions, it was going back directly to him, and you know, hey, this rule doesn't quite make sense. You know, I look at it with the eye of a judge. I'm going to run this. Has anything been left out? Am I missing anything? Well, what happens if they actually go over there? We might want to add a little sidebar about that. You know, things of that nature. The tournaments and what end up in the yearbooks have probably been the most difficult, because you have so many people's voices that you're trying to cram into the same space.
Interesting. Yeah, I get
Greatest
you.
Thieves of Lankmar, for instance, there were probably 12 different authors. And having been on the Lankmar line for so long, okay, need to buff this part over here, totally erase this part, but then they still have to merge, right? So gonna put all that together and put it back in front of the project lead and say, are we good?
Now, what's it like if you have to edit somebody you cohabit with? Do you have to just, you know, lay down the law?
There are very few times where I get redacted. And that's only when I actually, what I have to do is print out the way it looks now, and then print out the way I think it should look, and just put them in front of him blindly and say, which one looks better? Which one reads better?
That's an excellent method. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you,
Other
Judge.
times I'll just, hey, did you really mean this instead of this?
Mm,
I mean, you were on the Dying Earth team. You know what it was like with going back and forth of, hey, let's crowdsource this. Does this sound right?
yeah,
And working with Brian on that was fantastic because we hadn't come up with a set style guide yet. And Brian was actually integral to the way the rote spells are listed in the magician stat blocks and the adventures. And I'm still grateful for that.
Yeah, Brian, you came out of I mean there was that big bulge of all that writing at the end that had to get
Right.
done, and suddenly Brian was flying around and was like, "Hey, this is awesome." I love as a writer, I love editors because I need help. Let's just leave it at that. So,
Our job is to make you look good, right?
Yes.
right, yeah. So Brian, you're an old DCC guy. You were messing around with Cthulhu back in the day.
Yeah.
But then you came into Dying Earth. I'm sure you were handed a draft of the rules. What was that
Yep.
like just to get up to speed suddenly? And then, okay, I know how this kind of went, right? Even though I've not done this, Brian, you're going to edit this stuff. Here's a draft of the rules. Here's a bunch of adventures. Here's 10 files. Okay, go.
Yep.
We need it by September 1st.
Yep. No, I will throw the hat back and give great credit to Jen and Michael Curtis, that they were confident that I could fill the task with what I had done. And
What style?
I don't know. I haven't really tallied how the order, but I don't know that I had too many adventures under my belt yet. I've been scattered across everything so far. Horror, DCC Day, MCC, Free RPG Day, one of the holiday adventures, Dying Earth, some other future stuff. But yeah, the Dying Earth, it was the nice thing about it is, at least with DCC and MCC and all the others, you at least know if you got DCC down, it's, I don't want to say easy, but it's not a big shift.
Yeah.
You know how the rules as a whole are going to work. So it's more just a poking at the edges to see what's different. We were used to Fleeting Luck from Lankmar so much, and you look at the Wayfarer's luck
Derogatory.
and the grudge mechanic, and it's the flip side of that. I love seeing the take on the magician versus a wizard. The fact that you could play either one in DCC or in Dying Earth. But I do like the adherence to that Vancian magic of, this is going to work once, and then you gotta sleep for a while.
Yeah.
So okay, yes, it was fun to jump around and play in that.
Okay, here's the lightning round. I'm going to start with Brian. What do you love about editing DCC, and what is your least favorite thing about editing DCC?
Least favorite, we'll do that one, is the initial read through. And I think some of that depends on the author. If you've worked with the author before, you kind of know where they're going to go. If it's a new person, you're like, all right, well, what's their style? What's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to throw out Bob as a good example, because he had 2 of those adventures in Dying Earth. And he really embraced the Vancian titles too. So I felt that he was, it was going to be fun because he clearly he had that feel for things already. Favorite part, I'm going to say that final turn in to Michael or Jen, and not getting another copy back. Saying we need to do
Good answer.
Fair. Fair?
It's also my favorite part too. So I totally agree. All right, Jen, you can answer if you want. Lightning round,
Oh,
best and worst.
best part is that initial excitement when I'm starting to print everything, gathering up my various red pens or multicolors, depending on my mood, and the clipboard, and I sit down and I start that first read through. I do still use trees for it because I'm a Luddite. Least favorite part, well, the other best favorite is when it all starts to come together, like especially if it's part of a big project. You get that feel of, oh, this actually goes into this place and this is what's going to go around it.
Other best part. Come on.
Yeah.
What? Okay, worst part.
Least favorite is honestly having to plunk the Luddite notes back into the document and realizing this doesn't make as much sense as I thought it did.
Yeah, that could work. That could work. All right. Hey guys, Brian, thank you so much for being with us.
Certainly.
We are going to descend to the crypt. I have to warn people. This is not for the weak of heart. Okay. We're dealing with the un-dead here. So you may want to, shut off the screen. You may back away. You may, if you're listening to podcast, you may want to just skip ahead. This can be terrifying. So just be careful. You've been warned. Spoiler alert. Dread and horror await you as we descend to the email crypt. With that, we'll make our descent.
Hello, it is me, the zombie of the emails. Yet again, they've put their annoying missives in my pile and shipped them through the strange dumbwaiter down into the depths of the crypt. Poor Lana has to come down here and video me wearing this stupid shirt. It's terrible. Well, here we go. This one, an un-dead email from July of 2021 comes from Joan of Arc, Destroyer. She writes, well, Judges J, the order of the Shauna podcast would like to probe your minds. Is the patron both divine and magical? What defines a deity? What defines a patron? Then she gives these bullet points like Bubba Bills and Sezrakon and Ozzy Dahaka and the King of Elf. Are the above all patrons? Are they gods? And does God mean deity? Some are listed with the title Lord. Are they without patron spells? Are they considered deities? I have players playing clerics who have chosen one of the above. And I also have wizards who have chosen from the above. How do you adjudicate this? Well, Joan of Arc Destroyer. Nobody knows, and no one can say for sure, but I will tell you this. Jehovah, Satan, David Bowie, they're all the same. They're all just ethereal entities in the overworld who are, influencing us on who we would act. Anyway, don't worry too much about it and make patron spells for the gods if the wizards decide to patron bond, of course. And if the clerics want to worship Cthulhu or some other patron or Sezrakon, why not? Yes, do it. Whatever the players want to do, make them pay in blood and do it. All right, the next one comes from Judge John. Hello, the band. I just discovered a note I scribbled down while listening to the recent month-old episode of the Fancy and Mailbag. Remember when the episodes were a month old? Oh, that's great. To wit, I think you're overly nerfing the thief's backstab. As I see it, backstab is an ability of the thief to exploit weaknesses. There are two criteria: that the target has a comprehensible and exploitable anatomy that the thief understands and the target is unaware. But yeah, I think his whole point is that we shouldn't mess with the lowering the attack die or having it be lower or nerfed if the thief is doing a ranged attack instead of a nyeh, 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 nyeh. So all I can say, if he says if it's an attack, any type of attack at all, from surprise and against an opponent with a familiar physiology, it's a backstab, even if it's an attack in front at range. The balancing factor is it cannot be done every round. Stealth is established, which may take multiple rounds. What do you say to that? I could say more to support the case, but I can sense you're growing tired of reading this. I'm dead, Judge John. I am always tired. Anyway, I think you're right. Do what your players want. Give them all back then. No, it's good. No, you are right. Any attack from stealth is a backstab. As long as the victim does not know it's coming, they shall be critted once and critted again. Make them pay. I like victims. Yes, I like backstabs. More backstabs, the better. I concur. And probably the only argument you got was from silly Jeff Gold and silly Judge Jen and some guest, and who cares? Yes, make the backstab brutal and deadly. That's all I have time for. I must go back to laying on my slab and dreaming of eating corpses.
I really apologize. That was pretty scary. And, I see in the Twitch people are saying that, somebody's kid watched that and it's awful. So I totally, and I don't know what, somebody put some Metamucil in his corpses or something. He's really gunned up today. I don't know what happened there, but it's, anyway, we won't let that happen again. We got to keep the dead kind of quiet. So we have with us here, a couple of playtesters. We talked to editors, and now we're going to talk to some playtesters about playtesting DCC. So we have my pal Trevor Russ, who has helped me quite a bit. He's also from Calgary and has done a lot of judging, and he's been invaluable to me as a playtest judge. He also is a prime, I don't know, founder, co-founder, or just a volunteer or something at what we call RPG Alliance Hybrid Con. Do you want to talk about that for 30 seconds, Trevor?
Thanks, Julian. Yeah, it's I'm one of the co-organizers. I linked up with the person who started it, and really it's just a convention geared towards gaming for everybody. So we try to make it a very inclusive, welcoming space. And because of COVID, we went from being in person only to going online. And suddenly now we have hundreds of people that come every year. And this November is going to be our 6th annual. So we do 2 days online, 1 day in person. We tie in charity events, and we just try to make it fun for everybody and safe for everybody so that everyone can just have fun playing RPGs.
Yeah, and the charity thing is a nice twist. It was I've done it, I think, gosh, 2 or 3 years in a row. So
I think it's 3, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, it's you guys are doing like a virtual 1 or 2 days and then a in-person day on Sunday. Is that the plan for November?
That is the plan, yeah. So we have online, like I say, about 100 people, and then we have 1 day in person where we do it at a local pub. So it's a real old school kind of con.
Well, I
That's
don't
really
like
cool.
Yeah, I don't like beer, but if I did, I would everybody knows I don't partake. So, okay. Well, thank you, Trevor. And on the other side, we've got my new friend, Paul Keller, Judge Paul, who is recommended to me as a play tester. I went to my other guy, Judge Hank, who couldn't make it tonight, who's also an invaluable help to me many times and has done some editing. And I reached out to my pal and yours, Brendan LaSalle, and I said, give me a play tester. And he threw Judge Paul Keller at me. And Paul, thank you for being with us. Tell us how you got into this whole playtesting shtick here.
Well, thanks for having me first.
You're welcome.
I've been gaming since 91, but I'm kind of new to playtesting. A friend of mine who's an excellent judge and a game designer, Judge Crow, he is third-party publishing a DCC module, which should come out early next year. And that sort of got my juices flowing. So when I saw an ad that Brendan put out online for playtesters, I just responded and got lucky.
Very nice, very nice. And this, so you couldn't have set that up better. We are going to put that link in our show notes here too, where you can just respond, and we're going to have a link. You basically go in there, you email Goodman Games, you say, hey, I want to be a playtester, and somebody from the Goodman universe will reach out to you with some DCC stuff to test. So, or MCC stuff, it could be anything. You should probably say what you like best or know best, and it might influence what you get called for, but it might not. Who knows? Anyway, well, that's good. I'm glad to see that that's working, because I know that they've been doing that. And I asked Brendan, hey, should I be plugging this? And he's like, yeah, man, people still want to do it. Yeah, Julian, people still want to do it. Know what I'm saying? Let's go, buddy.
Literally.
Right? So I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. Okay. Well, great. Great to hear. Paul, did you just play test a funnel for Brendan?
Yeah, it was a funnel. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about it since it's not.
Don't talk about the adventure, but you can talk about you know what I mean? Feedback, spoiler. You can give non-spoiler funny anecdotes about the game, if you know what I'm saying.
I've prepared a fairly funny anecdote that I've transposed the details of what happened onto a completely different set of circumstances. Basically, collecting feedback for the module was pretty straightforward. Brendan gave me a list of bullet points that he was really interested in, knowing about, and I just sort of kept a pad of paper next to me while I was running the game, and jotted down what came up. That, in hindsight, combined into a decent review for him, I hope. The module is fantastic. I'll just go ahead and say that. Go ahead and hold your breath for that one.
He said your write-up was fantastic. So I don't know if it was your write-up. I have a feeling it was more like the game you ran must have been super funny or fun or whatever, and then that translated to the write-up probably.
The module is out of this world. I mean, he's got some new stuff in there that I hadn't ever come across in any module. And I won't say anything more than that, but I was blown away to get to run this one.
Okay, nice. So, look for redacted funnel coming soon to a place near you. Yes, very nice. So, very good. Trevor, tell us, give us an idea of what a playtester does, because I think some people don't necessarily know all of that stuff.
That's a good question. I wasn't sure myself, so I just ran it, I guess, like a typical game, and I didn't really know what you were after in terms of feedback, what you were looking for.
Yeah,
so
I didn't give any bullets or what I'm looking for or anything. I'm like, Trevor, just run it. Tell me,
which
I mean,
is fine.
I knew you're a smart guy, so
thanks. So I just wrote down everything, and I probably just I felt kind of bad because I just mentally or just dumped on you for feedback, and it's like, well, here's everything. Take what you want from it.
Been there.
So you literally got the adventure, and I think you've play tested Dying Earth and the Empire of the. Did you do the Empire of the East adventure too?
No, just so far just Dying Earth.
Okay, so you've done at least like
3 or 4. 4.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and wow, what a help that has been. Thank you. And you were also given probably to your consternation, some increasingly maturing versions of the rules as you went.
Yeah, that was fun. I just had to,
Sorry.
before I ran the game, it's like scramble to go, oh, I better check and see if anything's changed. And luckily, when I ran the first few, my players didn't know anything about Dying Earth, and most of them actually didn't know anything about DCC. So they had no idea if I was giving them the right rules or the wrong rules. And sometimes I would forget things. And so, I mean, it worked out well. The cheat sheets were great because, especially when you distill them down to the character sheet, and that's going along with DCC. I think that's one thing great about it is everything's on the one-page character sheet, and you pretty much got to the point where that's all we needed, and then just reference things like what the spells actually do and stuff like that.
Hmm. Jen, have you done? I mean, you've play tested like Linkmar rules and stuff before it was official. You were running Linkmar stuff. Have you done like official playtest stuff? Like Linkmar, were you doing some official Linkmar adventure playtest? I sort of remember.
I was actually a player for that.
Hmm.
Bob ran a year-long playtest for like every 2 to 3 weeks,
Hmm.
just to make sure that the rules that were there could withstand campaign play.
Hmm.
And as it turned out, that was a good thing. But when I first started talking with Stephen Newton, he was explaining how important playtesting was, and much like Trevor, I had no idea. And started running some playtests with our group at the FLGS, and I said, "How do you want me to write all this down?" He said, "You know what? Have a bowl session afterwards. Spend half an hour or whatever picking it apart and just record it on your phone. Let me hear exactly what people have to say about it." And so, of course, I got permission from everybody first. Said, "Hey, I'm going to do this, and we'll try not to lambast him too badly, you know."
Hmm.
And as it turned out, playtesting for They Served Brandolin Red was actually my very first convention game that I ran at GaryCon some eons ago. And I did that one and the Seven Deadly Pits of Caesarcon, the same show, but specifically playtesting. And I think Trevor's right in that when you're running it, you're making sure that you as the judge find that the author has spelled everything out for you.
Yeah, of course, right? I mean,
the author needs to remember that not everybody who sits down to run this has run DCC before.
And I'll say this because I have the feeling there are aspiring judges, writers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera out there. And it was amazing in the COVID era because I could never get enough people to help me play test before. And in the COVID era, we started doing so much online gaming, and my network of judges expanded so hugely, of players, judges, everybody, that suddenly I had so many more people and I could call upon. And that's how I met Trevor, of course, and as well as Judge Hank, my other kind of go-to guy. And yeah, I mean, it was really great to be able to do that because, man, it's such a help. And I want to say, amusingly, when I sent out my first draft of the show notes, I anticipated editors would come back and redline the show notes. Actually, the playtesters came back and redlined my show notes. And I want to say they are the real reason they're the unsung heroes of DCC is they do a lot of editing. And in fact, they edit the manuscript before it goes to the editors. Because of course I don't send it to the editor before I playtest it, right? I send it after I playtest it. So unfortunately for Judge Trevor, Judge Hank, and others, it's actually they end up pulling the heavy load of correcting my typos and all that stuff. So thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Judge Hank, wherever you are. Hopefully you're listening. Judge Paul, tell us about, was that your first playtest that you've run as Brendan's Fundle, or have you done some stuff before that?
No, like I was saying, I've worked with Judge Crow on a module that he's designing third party for DCC. It's a voodoo themed funnel.
Mm.
But yeah, really just the two of those in various iterations. Um,
So
yeah.
when you're doing this, are you you're taking of course Brendan gave you some bullets, but you're taking the manuscript. Um, do you sometimes do you feel like you run it and you look back at the two things that you didn't do right after the fact? Hopefully just two. If it's me, it's like 12. Hopefully for you, it's just two. Are you shamed when you're like, oh my God, I was playtesting this and I totally missed the door that goes into this room and none of like do,
Well, look, it's like that hideous, disgusting email zombie said. Just let the players do what they want, make them pay in blood. I mean, how can you do anything wrong, right?
yeah, I mean there's something that I always figure when I judge something, whether it's my own or somebody else's or whatever it is, even when I playtest, unfortunately, I always screw something up anyway. So so doing that in a playtest mimics reality anyway. I don't think
Exactly.
anybody is ever able to totally run it by the book. I don't know. Trevor, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's no different than regular DCC. You're just, yeah, you have to adapt, you have to run with it. And I've, I can think of times when I had to do that, with the playtest and then ask you afterwards, what did you really mean here, kind of thing. But
Lots of
game
Yeah.
notes in the
time,
margins.
yeah, but game time, you just, you know, make a call and move on. And usually I'm so scrambling to keep up with the players that I miss so much stuff anyways.
I was running one of my very first Laughing Idol of Larshan playtests at Gen Con like a million years ago. It seems like it was 10 years ago, but it was probably only 4 years ago. And I had this crazy table. It was Jogo and my friend Gary and like two or three other people that we would know, but I can't remember. But it was they were cream of the crop, really excited to play Dying Earth. And the guy's like, "Well, I'm gonna hire you to go find this brandy or whatever the MacGuffin is." And they're like, "Oh, how much are you gonna pay us?" And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna give you all 50 terces or something, pretty nice sum. Probably not 50, but a lot of money." And Jogo, the troublemakers at the table, they all start looking at each other like, "Why don't we just knock this guy over? Like, what are we doing this? Why should we bother doing this adventure? Like, let's just what do you think? What do you think?" And I I did have to just throw myself on the mercy of the court and just go, guys, maybe I have this whole map thing that I hand drew and I'm supposed to turn this in eventually. So maybe help me out. And they
That's what the
all
Gias spell was made for, right?
right, right. But I probably should, I should have rolled with it. We would have just had an extremely sandboxy, heist game in which things. Of course, my mastery of Dying Earth at that point was less too. So, but I don't know. So sometimes I think I look back and go, well, that would have been a pretty crazy game. It ended up a pretty crazy game where we had a good slugfest at the end between PvP. So, that was good anyway. But I will say, yeah, playtesters, I don't know in your case, Paul, but certainly in my case, playtesters do a lot of editing and that's of course really important because it's not just, well, how my adventure flows. Well, the players like this part, they didn't like this part, I didn't understand this part, but there's also a lot of, you know, Julian, you said there's a door to 3A here, but there's no door on your map, dude. And I'm like, oh,
Thank you. You
Fortunately,
just
Brendan
pointed
knows
out.
what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. But Julian, you just pointed out letters and numbers aren't the only things that the editors are checking.
right.
We're going through the maps. We're making sure if a secret door is supposed to be there, is it on the map? Or do I need to go back and change the text? Because changing text is always easier than getting someone to change a map. And yeah, the logic of it has to flow too.
Right. No, and you know, but especially, you know, things have to make a certain amount of sense.
Mhm.
There is a in my Empire of the East adventure, Mr. Curtis of all people told me, I won't go into a whole thing about it, but he's like, you know, there ought to be a door here because this guy's a high-ranking military person, and he's not going to go through the same door that all the other guys go through and deal with the hoi polloi in the front. He would actually have his own private. And you know, I was like, yeah, that's probably true. So it's, you know, so there's a lot of logical consistency that one looks for, not just, you know, there's cultural, there's even kind of pseudo historical, even though it's not really historical, but still we're kind of coming out of a hopefully a logical order, except for my stuff, which is, you know, based on chaos. So, okay, we're gonna wrap it up with our playtesters. Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna ask you to tell me what you love most about playtesting, and here's your lightning round. What do you love about playtesting, and as far as why other people should do it, and also, what's your dream playtest? What do you want? What's you know, Mr. or Ms. X is going to come to you and say, "Oh, hey, Paul, Trevor, I got this thing for you. Playtest this. Thank you. Here's a manuscript. Bye." Trevor, you're first. What would you like to do?
What would I like? What's my dream playtest?
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I guess I've been living the dream because Dying Earth has just been so much fun.
Oh.
It's and especially, you know, the ones I've been able to play test, they've felt so Vancian. It's just been yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I can't, you know, I guess I can't think of what's next because it's like, okay, I've got Lankmar, I've got Dying Earth. What more do I need?
So if you're sitting at the bar at Gen Con next to a DCC judge and you're trying to convince them to playtest for anybody, playtest for a third party judge, for Goodman, what are you telling him or her?
I guess I'll take anything. How's that for an answer? It's just it's such a fun process. And getting back to what do I enjoy, you were asking is, you know, just seeing the process behind the scenes and seeing the manuscript turn into the next draft, turn into something, and then finally seeing it come out as the published thing. I mean, that's just amazing to be just one tiny little part of that process and be able to see it from behind the scenes. I think that's the best part of it.
Well, I will say you have saved some of the editors on this show a lot of trouble by providing me a lot of good feedback, extremely intensely detailed feedback on my Dying Earth manuscripts. So they thank you, and I thank you, Trevor. Paul, I'm going to give you the same questions. What's your dream? What's your dream playtest? And also, if you're sitting next to that person at the bar and you're trying to convince them, you know, what do you tell them?
Dream playtest, super easy. Harley Stroh, Michael Curtis team up, tag team module. I get the first copy.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you know. Okay.
I would arm wrestle you for that, but okay. Yeah.
All right.
It's going to be 2,000
I'll
pages,
lose,
and
it's okay.
it has to be done
I'll
in
give you a
5
head start.
days.
Piece of cake. Give it to you in one.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Good. And then and
the guy
what's
at
your
the bar?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, what's not to love about playtesting? You get to play a module before it's ruined by reviews and feedback and, you know, spoilers. Come on, it's the purest form of RPG, right? That you didn't write yourself.
Nice.
And getting your name published in the album jacket isn't too bad either, you know?
Yeah. And you can dangle that for the players because they like that stuff, right? So
Everybody likes that stuff.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate Paul and Trevor, your time and
Thanks for having me.
contribution.
What an honor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
thanks very much for having me.
no problem.
And can I just add one thing about playtesting, because you were asking earlier and I wasn't thinking fast enough.
Yeah.
As far as playtesting for anybody who's looking at doing it, it was one of my players who came up with he actually came out and said to the others, "Okay, we're playtesting this thing. We gotta figure out how to break it and do everything we can to break it." And that changed
Brilliant.
everybody's mindset, because
That is
then
such a Tim DeShane thing to say. You gotta lick
Yeah.
all the buttons.
Yes.
exactly, and then they were opening every door and looking in every
Yes.
room and every chest and going through every trap, and so it just changed everything from, playing it like a regular DCC game where they're playing it like they're
Trying to
not
survive.
supposed to know they're looking for these things, right? Yeah, exactly.
You
So
just changed the status quo, sir.
so the next time you see Jim Sketch, tell him hi for me. Since Jim tries to break every adventure I run under any circumstances, playtest or not. So hello, Jim. I hope you're out there. Hey, we also have to thank Brian for being with us today as an editor. Thank you very much, sir. And Tale of Smoking Worm Kickstarter, jump on that ASAP. And also we're giving a big shout out to Grape Ape, my pal and yours, Twitch celebrity, Mr. Matt. Look me up and give me okay. And finally, the usual, right? Jen, do you have any before we go into our bands, do you have any last words?
Do you want me to share the link for those who are interested in playtesting future
Yeah,
products?
you throw it in. I'm going to put it in the show notes, but if you want to
Okay,
drop it on the Twitch right now, that would be awesome too.
absolutely.
Yes, please. Thank you. So mega thanks to Glitter Wizard, not to be confused with King Gizzard and those guys. Mega thanks to Glitter Wizard and Loot the Body and St. Karloff, who have actually been listening to a ton. Love
And
those
who
guys.
just had a new release drop.
Yeah. And for permission to use their music, we love you guys. Music episode on Spellburn. I really want to do it. I really want to do it if these giant rock stars will talk to us. So anyway, mega thanks to the bands who support us with free music. And that's all, guys. Keep playing DCC and game on.
You have been listening to Spellburn.